put them on silence. I'm going to ask that Pastor Ed Davis would come and lead us in prayer. Also, we'd like to say hello to his mother, who is 108 years old. And we're going to ask that Councilman Jackson would lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Our Lord and God, we come today, give you all the praise, give you all the glory, give you all the honor. Bless our mayor, Heavenly Father. Bless the council members, Heavenly Father. Bless all those who are assembled today, Heavenly Father. Give them wisdom, O God. Give them knowledge, Heavenly Father. Understand to do the business of Shreveport, Louisiana, Heavenly Father. Bless all the citizens who are here, Heavenly Father. If you would do that for us, O Heavenly Father, we give you all the praise, all the glory, all the honor. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you be kind enough to call the roll?
Councilwoman Taylor. Present. Councilman Brooks.
Here.
Councilman Talaferro.
Here.
Councilman Butcher. Councilman Jackson.
Here.
Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilwoman Bowman.
Present.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the administrative conference meeting Monday, April 24th, 2023, and the city council meeting Tuesday, April 23rd, 2023?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
That passes with 6.
Thank you. Does any council member have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes? Mr. Mayor, do you have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any other city business related?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Reports. Does any member have any questions or concerns for Mr. Green for property standards? Ms. Green, I think everything's about done. Thank you. Is there, did everyone receive your revenue collection plan and implementation report? Public hearings, none. Madam Clerk, will there be any legislation added today?
No, sir.
Thank you. Today we will hear public comments on agenda items only. The Vice Chair will control the names and the time.
Sammy Mears.
Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, Apartment M110, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. I'm speaking on Resolution 9A60. I may not know much about it, but I know it's hard to decide on this. If you just do the right thing, you'll know what it is. Just deep down inside, if you feel that rejecting all bids for fire station number 16 renovation BID RFQ 23502 must be done, just don't hesitate. Go ahead and take care of it.
Thank you. Ashley Abear.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ashley Abear. I'm here on behalf of the Center for Black Health and Equity. We are a CDC-funded national network that strategically partners with community-based organizations and state and local public health departments to ensure that tobacco control activities and policies benefit communities of color. Putting Shreveport's casino workers back into smoke-filled environments after nearly 2 years of workplace protection sends a loud, clear message that their health is negotiable. The changes could disproportionately, affect the large number of Black Americans working in the local casinos because good policy, like the comprehensive smoke-free air ordinance that we passed, has a positive, immediate, and long-term effect on public health. We have already clearly demonstrated that there is no safe level of secondhand smoke exposure. It is not only costly, but it is deadly. Frankly, Shreveport's casino workers don't deserve this kind of disrespect. They deserve the same workplace protections as every other worker in this city. Why are you, the leaders of Shreveport, letting casino executives determine how you protect public health by rolling back proven public health protections on a what if? 2 years ago, I stood at this same podium and I said these words: the casino is not here for the community, but you are. Shreveport made a promise to bar and casino workers nearly 3 years ago. They promised to put them first. There should be no expiration date or contingency on protecting the people of Shreveport. Thank you.
Ms. Bradley?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Fiamula Bradley, and I am the regional manager for an organization called the Louisiana Campaign for Tobacco-Free Living, and we are a program of the Louisiana Cancer Center. I have the privilege of living in Shreveport. I live, work, play, and pray here. And I also had the privilege of hearing most of your campaign speeches, whether you were in my district or not. I never once heard any of you say that you were destined or that your intent was to make things in Shreveport go backwards as opposed to forward. Y'all got it right. You absolutely got it right. You put Shreveport on the map in an awesome way, not just locally and statewide, but nationally. Shreveport was recognized for getting it right. That means making sure that comprehensive smoke-free policies would protect workers in gaming industries, in bars, and those who chose to go and visit as patrons. You got it right. And so for over a year, they have worked in environments that are non-toxic. They have had the privilege and the honor of having the same privilege and honor that the casino executives have. I stood here just like Hebert did. I recall the question being asked of an executive, do you allow smoking in your office? And yes, there was a pause. We knew the answer. Guess what? He didn't. So he did not have the same ravishing effects, or he wasn't challenged with the same things that those workers would be challenged with day after day after day after day. So all of a sudden they don't deserve to have the same privilege that he does? They do. And to now go backwards sends a horrible message, not just to those workers, but to people across the state of Louisiana and the country that's watching Shreveport when we got it right. I was on a call just before I got here, and they were talking about this. But from a vantage point of why? Why would they do that to those workers? Why would they do that to those folks? Here's what we know about casinos. I know you all know that they're not broke. I know that you know that they're not struggling. I know that you know that both of the casinos on this side of the river are hiring. You know this. And so at the end of the day, I ask you, keep it right. Let's continue to protect those individuals who work in those spaces that you work, play, attend church with, and no, they deserve to live and work and be healthy.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley.
Thank you. We asked you all then, and we ask you now. Keep your
Thank
promise.
you, Ms. Klein. Ms. Klein.
Hi, my name is Alice Klein, representing the American Cancer Society. As Louisiana Government Relations Director for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, I thank you, the City Council of Shreveport, for taking action to protect the health of the workers and patrons at Shreveport bars, casinos, and gaming operations by enacting a comprehensive smoke-free ordinance in June 2020. Your leadership has been recognized and applauded by everyone from your own constituents to the former United States Surgeon General Jerome Adams. The wide range of support illustrates to us all the importance of comprehensive smoke-free laws. Existing research strongly indicates that smoke-free laws are good for businesses, for workers, and for customers. Research published in leading scientific journals has shown consistently and conclusively that smoke-free laws have no adverse effects on the hospitality industry. Secondhand smoke causes nearly 42,000 deaths, including up to 7,300 lung cancer deaths among non-smoking adults each year in the United States. Exposure to secondhand smoke causes many of the same tobacco-related diseases as active smoking, including heart disease, stroke, and cancer. Multiple Surgeon General's reports have confirmed that the scientific evidence indicates there is no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke. Recognizing this, 28 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and over 1,169 localities across the country have implemented laws that require 100% smoke-free workplaces, including restaurants and bars. 21 of these states, as well as Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, also include gaming facilities in their comprehensive smoke-free laws. New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette include gaming facilities in their smoke-free air policies as well. A study examined changes in indoor air quality in 2 Shreveport casinos before and after implementation of the smoke-free ordinance in 2021. The study found that prior to implementation of the law, air quality inside the casinos failed to meet the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's safety standard. However, 2.5 months after implementation, concentration of particulate matter had dropped substantially to a level that was no longer considered unhealthy for workers or patrons. The Surgeon General has said that smoke-free workplace policies are the only way to prevent secondhand smoke exposure at work. Separating people who smoke from those who don't, cleaning the air, and ventilating the building cannot prevent exposure if people still smoke inside the building. We urge the Council to continue with your leadership in protecting the health of your community by ensuring that the comprehensive smoke-free ordinance remains in effect. ACS CAN supports everyone's right to breathe smoke-free clean air, and no one should have to choose between their health and a paycheck. Therefore, ACS CAN opposes efforts to amend the smoke-free ordinance to allow smoking in casinos. Shreveport's gaming employees must be protected from the deadly effects of secondhand smoke.
Thank you, Ms. Klein.
Thank you.
Mr. Holliday?
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Holliday. I'm a local pulmonary and critical care physician, and I was notified of y'all's consideration of the repeal for smoking bans in public spaces in restaurants and casinos. And I just wanted to come and talk to you a little bit about it from my perspective as a physician. I've been here in Shreveport now as a physician now for 29 years, 15 in private practice and 14 years at the medical school serving our citizens here. And so I'm well aware of smoking and what it causes to health issues for patients. And I'm sure that y'all are aware of people friends and family who have had lung diseases as well, or other diseases that are related to smoking. So we've known since 1964 from the Surgeon General's first report that smoking is bad for us, and yet we still do it. It's a voluntary thing that that anybody can do, and we suffer the consequences as a result of it. But secondhand smoke is an involuntary thing that people are around other people that are smoked don't have any control over. Yet we are finding more and more that secondhand smoke also causes problems, not just lung cancer, not just heart disease, but asthma, bronchitis. And those are things that affect us on a day-to-day basis, affects our workers' ability to work, students' ability to go to school, that kind of thing. And so as we start to thinking about that, when we have patrons that go to restaurants, if you're in a restaurant and somebody's being boisterous or loud or something like that, when you leave the restaurant, you leave that behind you. But if you've got somebody who's smoking in the table next to you, you take that with you because we know that that can cause problems. And so just consider that not only is there's long-term health effects of this, not just from the single time that you're exposed to it, but if we're going into a restaurant and it's available everywhere else, you get continued exposure over time. And so it's a problem for our citizens that can affect their health. And so just those are some of the things that you have to consider, is that secondhand smoke affects people in ways that they don't have any control over. Just consider that as y'all are making
Thank you, sir.
making some of your.
Holliday.
Thank you.
I have to just shout out to Dr. Holliday. He was my mother's pulmonologist. My mother died of lung cancer in 2017, and he was my mother's pulmonologist, and I grew up with him in Spring Hill, so that even makes him a better guy. So, but thank you, Dr. Holliday.
Thanks, Mr. Butcher.
Dr. White?
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Martha White with the Office of Public Health. And my shout out to Dr. Holliday is he saved my husband's life. He was one of his docs, so I will forever be grateful. So I really struggled with what to come say to y'all. We were all here before, we've said it before. We can give you the facts and the statistics. And so I was thinking, my father, if y'all knew him, was a very heavy smoker. He smoked a pipe. And he used to drive in the car with us. He had 3 little girls, and he would keep the windows up, and he would gripe at you, if you rolled down the windows. And we could never convince him. Like, it made us car sick. It made us had asthma. It gave us all kinds of issues until I developed a significant health issue as a medical student. And when my pulmonologist, Bettina Hillman, said to him, "You're hurting her," it got through to him, and it made him see. So I think about me being in that car and all that smoke, and I relate that to those casino workers, because they are stuck behind a table with people blowing smoke at them all day long for 8-10 hour shifts, and they don't have a way to step away or roll down the window or have someone advocate for them, except for all of these fine people who have come to you and got through to you a few years ago that said this is such a danger. They need y'all advocating for them. This is their health. And we talked to you last time about how, yes, casinos can lose some income, but that universally around the country, they did have a drop, but that by the 3rd year, and this is not in a pandemic, but by the 3rd year, they had recovered back to where they were prior to the onset of the smoke-free ordinance. Their income had recovered. And so, yes, they're going to lose a little, but they can do things to help combat that, which they're not doing. We're not seeing advertisement for them. We're not seeing them say, hey, we're smoke-free, come enjoy a nice, healthy place to come play and have a good time. There's things that they can do to help us help them. A lot of people have stood up here and said, we will go. When Alexandria passed their smoke-free ordinance, they did a survey, and 75% of people said that they wanted a smoke-free place to go gamble. So there are people who will utilize your casinos. So all I can say is I would hope that you will consider the people that stood before you, even though they risked retaliation, even though they risked losing their jobs, they took that risk and came and stood before you and said, this is important to me. And so we're here to say in their stead today that it's important. You did the right thing. Please don't take this step back. I can't imagine on a national level, I looked. No other municipality, especially one this size, has ever rolled back a smoke-free ordinance.
Thank you, Dr.
We are
White.
in a state where, we're low on the numbers for so many things. Let's just keep please moving forward. Thank you.
Dr. White, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Dr. White, have you spoken to any workers at the casinos about this? And I know we don't vote on this until next meeting, so and there's a lot of time for us to get more information, but have you had any conversations with workers at the casinos?
So I did today to a few, no, it's just a small few people that I knew through people who work for me in my health unit. I asked them if they had family members or friends that they knew. And they are very positive about the smoke-free ordinance. But it's a very small number. We can bring people to you like we did before. I think that people are very passionate about their health, and they would definitely come and speak.
Well, there's no secret that I was one of the ones that held out the last time around. I do think that our casinos are seeing a downturn. I can't contribute that to not smoking. I am not for going backwards. We as the city of Shreveport went to Baton Rouge and received an award for the smoke-free ordinance. And just on the record, I will not be voting to amend this piece of legislation to allow it. I think that we're where we're at, and that's where we need to stay. But I would like to hear from some of the casino workers.
We can help make that happen. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Mansour.
Good afternoon. I'm the interim director of the Feistweiler Cancer Center. And I would like you to know that the lung cancer clinic and the head and neck cancer clinic at the Feistweiler are very sad places to be. Louisiana had about just under 4,000 cases of lung cancer last year, and about 60% of those people died. Head and neck cancer, a little over 1,200, and there are many patients who don't have tongues and voice boxes. So it's a terrible situation when you're afflicted, when your family's afflicted, and I'd like you to visualize some of those patients when you think about this task that you have before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Robert Wells.
I apologize for the messy handwriting. It's Walter.
I'm sorry.
I'm the chief of pulmonary and critical care medicine at the medical school, and I just wanted to talk to you all about this issue. Exposure to tobacco smoke clearly causes a number of diseases, including cancer and heart disease and lung disease. This is true both for the smoker and for those around them. And as alluded to, Louisiana is a poor performer in a lot of health issues, and this is one of those. The most recent statistics from the CDC show we have more than 11,000 deaths from cardiovascular disease, and only 4 states are worse than us. We have a very high rate of lung cancer, and I'll leave it to Dr. Mansour. It is indisputable that secondhand smoke and occupational exposures impact the health and welfare of the workers. There's an increased risk of heart disease by 25 to 30%, with approximately 34,000 premature deaths from cardiovascular disease alone. There's an increased risk of stroke by about 20 or 30%, lung cancer 20 to 30%. There's increased risk of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. There's worsened maternal fetal outcomes, including low birth weight and respiratory problems. The health effects of a smoking ban is also clear. The respiratory health and overall health of workers, both the smokers and non-smokers, improve with the implementation of these occupational safety measures. We have the 3rd highest rate of smoking in the state of Louisiana, but that means about 20% of people smoke. That means, of course, that 4 out of 5 people are non-smokers. Most citizens of the state do not smoke. The rate of smoking among gamblers tends to be similar to the national average and to the regional average, which means 4 out of 5 casino goers in Nevada do not smoke. So there's a large population there. Efforts to suggest that there's a negative financial impact have not been consistent, and they've tended to focus on revenue and not total profits. Profits also, they are ignoring the impact on insurance costs, the maintenance of the building, the cleaning, et cetera. So we've been able to see that the financial impact of smoking bans actually can be consistent with increased revenue and profits.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, that concludes public comments. We did have two that were not agenda items.
Thank you. Mr. Telfair, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, many of you that were in attendance in the chambers realized that it was a very emotionally charged environment. Author Edmund Burke says, "All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." I am very concerned, perhaps haunted, by the events which occurred yesterday during public comments in the people's chambers, your chambers. I wrestled with this last night and really couldn't gather my thoughts, and so I put some things together that I just needed to say. There were multiple levels of emotion surrounding the unfortunate death of a fellow citizen during a police encounter, which is currently being investigated by a third-party law enforcement at the request of the chief of police. To the family, this incident is being investigated thoroughly. Justice under the law will be served, and you deserve to be kept in the loop. What disturbed me the most was the inflammatory statements of the self-proclaimed member of the Black Panther Party, who in his own words traveled 1,200 miles just to be here, but to do what? Console the hurt of the family members, walk arm in arm for justice and peace? I wasn't convinced that was the reason. But he used his 3 minutes to attempt to ignite emotions, to spew hate towards your law enforcement community, a community of whom he doesn't even know, and I believe he doesn't care to know, a community who we count on to protect us and our property each and every day. I believe the mission was to create fear and to have every black person within the sound of his voice believe that the only reason we, law enforcement, put on a badge before shift is, in his words, escalate any situation which allows them to have a reason to unleash their wrath on anyone who is black and to kill you. This is unacceptable. He wanted all of us to believe that law enforcement's purpose is to shoot and kill every black person that they encounter. Generalizing and characterizing members of a noble and necessary profession as killers of black people is reckless, it's hateful, and it's a lie. There are police officers in this room right now who could be protecting other citizens, but they're not. They're here for your protection, and any one of them, I know this for a fact, any one of them at any moment would take a bullet for you and your family. Because this is what they do. This is the oath that they swear to. This is who they are. During my career at SPD, I served in every community in this city, from Cedar Grove to Cooper Road, from Moortown to Allendale. And I know in my heart that much of my neighbors in the black community do not subscribe to this hatred for our police officers, nor the belief that our cops go out on patrol looking for a reason to shoot a black person. This hate speech should be condemned by every citizen, every preacher, priest, pastor, rabbi, and every member of government. Again, this is not acceptable. Just this morning on Christian radio, I was listening to a black rapper utter a verse in a song which says, "All the hate in the world ain't gonna make me a hater." For all our citizens, black, white, and every other color under the rainbow, and those families who are hurting today because of tragic events involving the police, seek justice, and yes, seek answers, but reject words of hate from everyone. We are better than we were yesterday, Shreveporters, and we will continue to seek justice, be accountable, and enhance your quality of life. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Madam Chair, you had another person?
Yes.
Yes.
Darryl Ware, I'm sorry. That's me. Yes.
so funny. I just had a question about the proper good game last year. Okay, I'm here to talk about Resolution 62 in regards to Caddo Shreveport Sales and Tax Commission. My name is Darrell Ware II. I'm the founder and CEO of Think Chief. We provide stories of true faith and love for the people who care about the future of the United States of America. I'm coming to you today because I'm in the process of getting funded and making sure that I comply with all the rules and regulations within the city of Shreveport, the state of Louisiana, and Caddo Parish. I have a question of if my company is a nonprofit or a for-profit corporation. I do have a print proof of my first publication. It is called 28 A Book of Poems. It is fantastic. But in order for me to see if I will be tax exempt, I have to make sure that my publishing and my stories actually fit the criteria to be a nonprofit or not. Is it proper for me to give an excerpt of one poem from my book or not? I will just share my first poem.
Mr. Ware?
Yeah.
No, so what is it that you're
Okay.
wanting the city to do?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What is it that you're requesting as it relates to Resolution 62?
Okay, and I know that this, when allocating the budget and the funding for Sales and Tax Commission, I do know that when you're trying to figure out how much is actually going to go to the funding of all the administrative things and all the infrastructure and everything that goes on with that, I don't know if there's going to be funding or any type of funding requirements for me or any type of payment that's going to go towards. I know that I have a business within the city of Shreveport, and I know that it provides a public benefit. I'm just not aware of not if Sales and Tax Commission is going to have to consider this when taking it to the budget, because this is a new business within the city of Shreveport.
Sir, have you contacted the sales tax office to ask them if you'd be tax exempt?
So here's the thing. The process of starting a business in Shreveport is not too difficult, but there is a lot of driving around and GoBiz.com. It can be a bit confusing. So I do know I have to go to the office on D Street, right? I have not yet done that. But I did email my councilman, James Green, about my organization because I do live in your district, 2820 Morningside Drive. So I'm just looking for assistance for the people who represent the city of Shreveport, Louisiana, as I try to provide this work for the people who care about the future United States of America, starting in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yes, sir. I would do what he advised you to do, to go to the tax office and find out, and then give me a call. My number is 318-635-7118.
So sorry, as a citizen, the most annoying thing for me is to call a council person, my apology, is to call a council person's number and the mailbox is full and not receiving a call. So I sent the email because I literally just could not contact you in any other way.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you one more time.
Yeah.
Call me at 318-635-7118.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, my time is up. Can I shake your hand for?
Not across here.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good to see you.
Couple things real quick. Was Mr. Lyons, did he get his notice in time?
Mr. Who?
Chris Lyons?
I was told that I came in 2 minutes too late. And
Come on, Mr. Lyons. State your name and your address for the record, please.
I don't know if this works, but I have a graphic I'd like to put up. If not, then I'll explain what it is. My name is Chris Lyon, 509 Market Street. Live in downtown Shreveport. I've lived down here for 10 years. And up until most recently, the casinos were in my district. If you could see this graphic, which I'm sad is not able to be up, you would see, and I'll just say it, is casino revenue in both Shreveport and Bossier is down. The numbers provided by the state of Louisiana with casino revenue show this. The only casino that's gone up in revenue from the 2017 to 2019 average is Margaritaville. Every other casino that's active today, I didn't look at the numbers for the now defunct casino that may be coming back, but every one of them has lost revenue, and every one of them has lost attendance that is very similar to the ones that we see on this side of the river. So what's happening with the casinos in Shreveport for any potential lost revenue or lost attendance is not attributable to the smoking ban. A lot of people have talked about the health side of this and the worker side of this. This is economics. This is numbers. They're available from the state. I'd be happy to share the breakdown with you all. Unfortunately, the state doesn't provide like real tables. I had to personally input all of this data by hand because they don't provide spreadsheets. They provide scanned PDFs. It's a shame. But I had to do this. I spent all night getting this together, looking over 6 years of data. And what we're seeing now is not because of the smoking ban. What we're seeing is cannibalization of the market, expansion of other markets, including Oklahoma, which has taken a lot of our Texas folks. And I think that it's, as we're considering all these really important health benefits that the smoke ban has brought and the worker environment that's created, let's look at the numbers, look at the facts. And the facts say that there's only one casino that's doing better than it was in 2017 and 2019. Both sides of the river are suffering. It's not because of the smoking ban. That's all I have to say. Happy to provide any data you want. Thank you.
If you don't mind, Mr. Lyons, I'd like an email of that, maybe email your
Yes,
presentation.
I have the graphics, of course, and I have all of the raw data that's put into a spreadsheet that you can push around however you like, both attendance and revenue.
Did you give that to our clerk's office? Did you?
I literally had just enough time to put it
Okay.
together before running over here.
Yeah, if you would
So,
just give that to
I
them
will,
and they
I'll
can,
make
they
sure
could,
a
send
copy
it out to
is,
the rest of us.
I will make sure a copy is in your inbox.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Anyone
Thanks.
else? All right.
Thank you.
One last thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Can Chief Smith come up for just a second?
Good evening.
Hey, Chief, how are you?
Good.
I just wanted to kind of go over some of the events that happened on Friday night into Saturday morning. Basically, just to understand the noise ordinance and where we are, if there needs to be new legislation presented to help with the noise ordinance downtown.
Possibly so. We're looking at it and looking at it with another city department that's a lot more astute than us concerning the noise ordinance and that which is permitted in the entertainment districts by clubs themselves. And also there's a state law also that applies to noise. So we're trying to make sure that all of them are in sync with each other. So we could be possibly coming to the council very soon and asking for an ordinance or some type of legislation to make sure everything is regulated the same. And in addition to that, we're also ordering some decibel meters ourselves so we can personally determine the degree of noise that is coming from businesses, clubs, and also automobiles in the downtown area. So therefore, we'll have a lot more credible evidence to work with other than just what we hear with our own ears. So we are looking at it.
Well, contrary to what was said yesterday by several people, I'm all for people downtown having a good time.
Yes, sir.
My problem is whenever you get in the middle of the street and block a roadway, I think that's not good for anybody in the city of Shreveport. What I was told by several business owners down there that have contacted me, many of which live in my district, and that's the only reason I'm even involved in this,
Yes, sir.
is that there were certain bars that were inciting these people to get out into the streets.
We
Is that
are
what
in-
your investigation has proven?
We are, in fact, we've received that same information, so we're pulling the videos from private businesses, from social media, and from our own, real-time crime center to determine if there was, in fact, someone outside with a megaphone or microphone that appeared to be enticing or exciting people to go out in the street and violate the law. So that is a portion of our investigation, yes, sir.
And this was not the first time this happened. This happened back in November as well, where there was a DJ that was inciting.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And if the evidence lead in that direction, certainly those responsible will be held accountable.
For the record, I received all day Saturday calls from constituents about this. And I did my due diligence, looked into what happened, and then I made a post on Facebook. And I stand by that post that if they were inciting and standing in the middle of a state highway without a permit, then they do need to be punished.
That is correct. It has a state law against interfering with commerce, and from what I saw from the social media postings, that was in fact occurring. No doubt about that.
Well, and I'm all for having fun, but let's do it the legal way. And there's plenty of empty parking places and parking lots that they can get a permit and do that if that's what they want to so do. But
Yes.
we just, there's one particular business on Travis Street that I know has invested millions of dollars into his business.
Yes.
And I can only imagine if maybe one of our children or our mothers or elderly mothers were going down the road and got caught up in that. It's
Sure.
it's just a mess. So I would appreciate and
Absolutely.
the mayor and I have talked at length about it.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but thank you, and please keep us informed on what we can do as a council to help people have good, clean fun in downtown Shreveport.
I saw mature and immature people making some very immature decisions and actions down there that night. That night, as with every night on the weekend, we have at least five officers that are assigned exclusively to the downtown area. And I see from the communications that was sent out from the supervisor downtown that officers in other areas had also been alerted to be on standby to respond downtown if needed. I looked at that communication, and it showed that officers were downtown at that time. Arrests and citations were issued that very night.
Well, I know your officers did the best that they could do,
Yes.
and officer safety is a big deal. I understand that when you've got a crowd of 200 people, and people walking around with Hennessy bottles and beer bottles and whiskey bottles and
Yes,
vodka
sir.
bottles in their hand, and
Yes.
it's a dangerous situation. So I commend your department. I just hope we can be a little bit more proactive in the future.
Absolutely. We have a pretty good plan moving forward, not only from within, but seeking additional help from another agency also in the downtown area. Volunteer, of course. Can't force anybody to do
Send
anything.
my thanks to your department and the
Yes,
people
sir.
that work there on the weekends.
Thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Chief, I know you're still on the investigation, but I just want to make sure that you're keeping us up to speed as you gather evidence. I've received calls as well. A lot of the businesses were saying that it wasn't them, so I want to make sure that we're holding the right people accountable.
Absolutely.
If these were individuals in the streets with their car radios, then that's
Yes.
different from the businesses. I do want
I
to try to
agree.
protect all businesses, so just keep us up to speed as you're gathering information, so to make sure that we're holding the right people accountable to what happened this weekend.
Thank you. We will. The decibel meters that we've ordered, that the administration authorized us to order, will enable us to put some numbers and more, I guess, better define where the noise is coming from. So it's on the way, but we'll keep
And the
you
reason I'm
informed.
sharing that, because
Yes, sir.
even in my district, there were some kids that gathered at a private area, Willis Knight behind Whataburger.
Yes.
There's no businesses, there's no music, there's no clubs, but they gathered over there, they had music, so it was the same type of environment, but no businesses can be held accountable because those businesses were closed at that. So I just want to make sure that when we're looking at these videos, we're holding the right people accountable and we're just not assuming.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's City of Baton Rouge, or one of those, has an ordinance that if you hear somebody else's noise inside your resident, then it's too loud. But we'll see. We'll be able to make some recommendation hopefully here before long.
Thank you.
Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
I know there's a reference made to the business that, when that occurred 9 months ago, but that business has not been operating outside at all with any outside parties. So I'm agree with Councilman Jackson. I don't want there to be assumptions that are made that it's a certain business down the street. I prefer for all of the footage to be looked at to see if
Absolutely.
there were individual people and not some other businesses that were going in and doing that, because most club owners make their money with the businesses on the inside and not on the outside. And
Sure.
were these individuals that decided to go and celebrate Cinco de Mayo and
Sure.
have a good time out in the street and got too rowdy and decided to do things where they were breaking the law? I don't want us to single out specific club owners
Sure.
that are downtown that
Sure.
contribute to the tax base within
Sure.
the city of Shreveport
Sure.
at all?
The uniqueness of all of this is that out of 100% of the people that come down to the entertainment district to enjoy themselves, maybe 15, 20%, if that, have any intentions on going inside of the establishment, patronizing them. The big parties are on the outside, and that's just the way it is. It's on the sidewalk, it's in parking lots, it's gathering around the venue, but it's definitely not on the inside patronizing the venue.
And we don't know if somebody had their car out there playing loud music as well, that they could have been dancing and doing whatever the case may be. So I just want to make sure that we're not singling out specific businesses around there, especially a business who has been, their outdoor patio has been inactive for the last 9 months.
Sure, sure. We're gonna look at it all, and it'll be evidence-based, whatever conclusion that we come up with, and I'll be happy to report back, our findings.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
May I? Hey, Chief, how you doing?
Very well.
Okay, so I appreciate you going into the worksheet that evening. And so you say we did have 5 regularly assigned officers in the downtown district.
That's
Is that-
that's every weekend.
That's every weekend?
That's their permanent assignment, and it's been that way for, Lord, I don't know how long, for a long time.
Okay, and then we did have officers on standby to actually respond if needed.
Districts 1, 2, and 3, the adjoining
These
areas.
are the regular beat officers?
That is correct.
Okay, so no extra officers were hired as a hire back or anything like in anticipation of the Cinco de Mayo
I
celebration?
believe there were 2 hirebacks. I'm not absolutely sure.
Okay.
But it seemed like I read 2 hirebacks with that night.
Okay, and during a party like this or gathering like this, do you run any kind of plainclothes operations downtown to gather intel, to perhaps get a sneak peek of what it's the development of a crowd?
Sometimes
Sometimes
not.
we do, huh?
Sometimes we do. Just never can
You
tell.
never can tell. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
All
Don't
right.
tell.
Don't tell us.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have the executive appointment of Shaka Creel as Chief Technology Officer today.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilman Teleferro. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Shaka brings a lot to the city of Shreveport. Her IT experience is impeccable. It is not someone definitely that we want to lose, and I stand by what I say when I talk about the disparity in pay between men and women. Mr. Mayor, I ask you all to please take a look at that for sure. It passes with a vote of 7.
There are no items on the consent agenda for introduction or to be adopted, but just before we do that, Dr. White, I was with Dr. White today, so just make sure you tell him I said hello. Yes, ma'am. Madam Clerk, would you please proceed with regular legislation agenda, please?
Resolution 166 of 2021, a resolution in support of and establishing a tax increment financing TIF district, a proposed public improvement district wholly within the city limits of the city of Shreveport, and this resolution has been previously postponed until June 27, 2023.
Thank you.
Resolution 60, authorizing the city of Shreveport, Louisiana purchasing agent to reject all bids received for Fire Station 16 renovation, bid RFQ number 23-502.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher.
Second?
Second by Councilman Teleferro. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
That passes with 7.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you proceed with introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to May 23rd, 2023?
Resolution 61, adopting the system survey and compliance questionnaire required by the Legislative Auditor's Office of the State of Louisiana. Resolution 62, approving the budget for the Caddo Shreveport Sales and Tax Use Commission for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023. Resolution 63, authorizing the mayor to accept an in-kind donation of a 2009 Allegra RV valued at $24,000 from the Cattle Parish Sheriff's Office. Resolution 64, authorizing the donation of surplus property, specifically motorized vehicles of the Shreveport Police Department, which are not needed for a public purpose, to the Minden Police Department. Resolution 65, authorizing the donation of surplus property, specifically vehicle prisoner containment systems and spotlights of the Shreveport Police Department, which are not needed for a public purpose, to the Ville Platte City Marshal's Office. Resolution 66, authorizing the donation of surplus property, specifically trailers of the Shreveport Police Department, which are not needed for a public purpose, to the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office. Resolution 67, stating the City of Shreveport's endorsement of Andrus and Entrepreneur Center LLC to participate in the benefits of the Louisiana Restoration Tax Abatement Program. The required public hearing will take place on June 13, 2023. And Resolution 68, stating the City of Shreveport's endorsement of Cooper's Corner LP to participate in the benefits of the Louisiana Restoration Tax Abatement Program. And again, the required public hearing will take place on June 13, 2023.
Motion by the chair, second by Councilwoman Bowman. These items have been introduced. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with introduction of ordinance not to be adopted prior to May 23rd, 2023?
Ordinance 45, closing it and abandoning a portion of the Lockett Lane dedication in the Ravenna subdivision, Unit 2 in Section 6, T16N-R13W. And Ordinance 46, to amend Section 50-212 of Article 5 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Shreveport relative to the Smoke-Free Air Act.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilman Jackson. These items have been introduced. Madam Clerk, will you proceed with the ordinance on second reading and final passage?
Ordinance 32, amending the 2023 general fund budget, and there are 5 amendments. Amendment number 1, this is the administration's amendment. It deletes section 2 of the ordinance and substitute the following in lieu thereof. Provides an additional $9.5 million for street construction and reconstruction within the city. Funding comes from $11 million in sales tax revenues that were not previously budgeted.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dark, I'm all for doing this because we've got several streets. Most of the streets listed in District D, though, for the record, are now in District E on your list. That's not your fault, but it's our fault, but they are in District E. I have one street, I have several streets in District D, and I know we can't consider this on this, but I am going to say this on the record. St. Charles Boulevard has never been paved since it's been in the city limits of Shreveport, since 1994. It's almost like a gravel road. I get complaints weekly. We are going to have to find some money to at least pave the boulevard of St. Charles at some point. There are several houses on that. It leads to several streets, and we're going to end up having to do something over there. So please help me find the money to at least get that main drag paved. But I'm supporting everything else, but I have to go on record saying that. I think I ended up with about 3 streets in this, so thank you.
Councilman Brooks and Talavera.
That passes for 7.
Amendment number 2, this is the administration's amendment. It provides an additional $500,000 for the demolition of substandard houses and $500,000 for blight abatement, grass cutting, and care of premises. Funding comes from a portion of $11 million in sales tax revenues that were not previously budgeted.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Brooks. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Amendment number 3, this is the administration's amendment. It provides an additional $500,000 for litter pickup on major thoroughfares and gateways within the city. Funding comes from salary savings due to vacancies.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Taylor-Farrell, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Amendment number 4, this is the administration's amendment. It provides an additional $500,000 for street light maintenance within the city. Funding comes from a portion of $11 million in sales tax revenues that were not previously budgeted.
Moved by Councilwoman
Second.
Bowman, second by Councilman Brooks.
Discussion.
Are there any questions or comments, discussion? Councilwoman Taylor.
Mr. Dart, so we definitely making sure that the light maintenance for this, do those dollars still for the Cross Lake Bridge lighting, is it a part of that, or will it be a part of the bond issue?
I believe the Cross Lake Bridge is a part of the bond issue.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Dark, what exactly is this going to be used for?
The way we tried to describe it to you previously is that the $5 million you put in from the bond issue is primarily new lights or significant upgrades to lights. This $500,000 is really the kind of maintenance work when we run into a situation where there's a pole down or a circuit out or whatever, we've got a way to use our contractor to fix it.
Again, I wanted that to be on the record. I have several people in my district that have 0 street lights. And I would like in the bond to please let District D be a part of this, getting some street lights. We were able to find a little bit of money to finally light up the very heavily populated southern loop. But it's every other pole because we didn't have the money to do every pole. And so I just don't want any of this bond money not to go to District D. I've got areas of, several areas around LSUS that don't have lights. Down East Kings Highway, there's some areas that don't have lights. So I just want to make sure that District D is on the map to get some of the money out of the bond.
Our plan is to work with all of you. Mr.
Okay.
Furlong's working on a plan to try to get with each of you and try to determine where your priorities are.
Well, the sooner the better. Thank you.
That was the question that I had, Mr. Dark. So Mr. Furlong would present a list to each council district, letting them know where the significant impacts of lighting need to be.
We're going to ask you to identify places within your district that are the highest priority for you.
Okay.
We'll try to supplement that with what we've seen, and then we'll try to come up with a list that works for you.
Will we continue to work with the Public Service Commissioner as well
Yes,
for
we are.
additional lighting?
Yes, we
Okay,
are.
thank you, sir.
And another area, it's in old District D, but it's in E now. The Eden Gardens area, parts of Cedar Grove, back up behind Middle Magnet have 0 lights, and I think they need some.
Nothing else? Push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Amendment number 5, this is the administration's amendment. It provides an additional $1.1 million to pay the city's share of retiree health insurance costs. It also provides $1,437,400 to pay the unbudgeted cost of this year's property and liability insurance coverage as recently approved by the council. The operating reserve is reduced to cover these costs and to make the combined revenue and expense figures balance within this ordinance.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Chair makes a motion on the ordinance as amended, all 5 amendments.
Second.
Second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 33, amending the 2023 budget for the Street Special Revenue Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Telefarrell. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 34, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2023 Capital Projects Fund budget, appropriating the funds authorized herein.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Ordinance 35, amending the 2023 budget for the River Fund Development Special Revenue Fund.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Ordinance 37, amending the 2023 Water and Sewage Enterprise Fund budget.
Moved by Councilwoman
Second.
Bowman, second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 39, amending the 2023 Airport Enterprise Fund budget, and there is one amendment. $58,800 was added to the original ordinance to fund the currently estimated cost of replacing the storm-damaged roof of Hangar 40 at the regional airport. The council approved this project as an emergency at its last meeting.
So move on the amendment, second by Councilman Teleferro. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Amendment passes with 7.
Chair makes a motion on the ordinance as amended,
So moved.
second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Passes with 7.
Ordinance 40, amending the 2023 Retained Risk Internal Service Fund budget.
Moved by the chair, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, let's push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 41 to amend sections 38-13 and 38-14 of the City of Shreveport Code of Ordinances relative to property standards requirements for non-residential structures.
Moved by Councilwoman Bowman, second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 42, an ordinance to amend various articles and sections of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Unified Development Code for the purpose of adding a new use as well as updating various outdated code provisions.
Moved by Councilman Jackson, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 43, zoning case number 23-31-C, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located on the southwest side of McKinley Avenue, approximately 300 feet northwest of Kansas City Avenue, I-MU Industrial Mixed-Use Zoning District to C-4 Heavy Commercial Zoning District.
So moved with
Second.
discussion.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilman Teleferro. Discussion by Councilwoman Taylor.
Mr. Dart, with this particular revision that we're getting ready to do here, on this street is some severely large potholes on McKinley.
Okay.
If you all would take a look at that so we can get that street paved for that businesses coming into that area, greatly appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other discussion?
I agree with Councilwoman Taylor. Agers up in that area off of Arrow Drive is almost impassable. We need to get something done with that.
Nothing else, push the button.
The motion passes with 7.
Ordinance number 44, zoning case number 23-23C, rezoning property located on the west side of Linwood Avenue, approximately 20 feet south of 64th Street, R-1-5, single-family residential zoning district to C-1 neighborhood commercial zoning district.
So moved. Motion by Councilman Brooks,
Second.
second by Councilman Teleferro. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button. Madam Clerk, is there any table legislation to be removed from the table today?
There is not.
We have no property standards or ABO appeals to consider today. We have no MPC or ZBA appeals to consider today. Are there any other appeals, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Are there any reports from officers, boards, and committees?
No.
Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's report?
Yes, the following letters of appointment appointment were received from the mayor's office on May 4th, 2023, and are subject for confirmation on May 23rd, 2023, for the position of city attorney, Marcus Edwards, and for the position of superintendent of traffic engineer, Alan Pierce.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have any additional communications?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Does any council member have any additional communications?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I just want to take a second from the events of yesterday, and I've received lots of calls about that. I'm saying this mainly to my colleagues sitting up here with me on the dais, and to the public. I believe that emotions are high in Shreveport, and I understand that. I don't believe engaging sometimes in when we have public comments. I think that we ought to let people say exactly what they want to say within reason. But I will say this, anytime a life is lost in Shreveport, it bothers me, whether it be a citizen that's shot by a police officer or a police officer. I have a little bit of experience with officer-involved shootings. On the other side of it, my family went through a lot from 2014 to 2021 after my wife shot and killed someone at Centenary College in the line of duty. The gentleman pulled a gun and pointed it at her partner's head, and my wife was forced to shoot and kill him. There is nothing fun for a police officer to shoot and kill somebody. I can promise you that. I want justice to be served, but also we can't speak about ongoing investigations that we're not even a part of. Of course, if there's wrongdoing, I'm going to speak out. Anybody with a heart's going to speak out. But I went through, and my family went through the ringer from 2014 to 2021. There's a father alive. There's a husband alive because of what my wife did. The gentleman had a handgun in his pocket. They were fighting him. I witnessed it. I was there. I'm maybe one of the only spouses in America that has witnessed his wife as a law enforcement official fighting somebody. I went to pick her up for dinner, and I witnessed it. From here to the back of the room, I was that close. I did CPR on the gentleman. I covered his sucking chest wound with my own hand until the Shreveport Fire Department arrived. I worked up code like I had never worked code in my life. So it infuriates me for people to get up here and speak and tell me that I don't have a heart. I tried to save the man that tried to shoot my wife. My wife, who went to work to do her job that day. All she was doing was walking him off of campus, trying to get him the help that he was asking for. And he pulled a gun. So, that no one sitting up here defended me on that yesterday, it angers me. It does. So you can like me, you can like what I stand for, but for someone to sit up here and call me racist because I don't say anything on a pending investigation, and every one of y'all sit up here and let them do it.
Interesting.
It's very interesting.
It is.
Thank you.
So that's all I have to say, but I will tell you this. My heart hurts for anyone who is killed in Shreveport. Anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Butcher, I'd just like to ask you, you said none of us defended you. You had the opportunity to call point of order and defend yourself.
When the gentleman called me racist when he was walking off after his time, nobody said a word.
Including yourself.
I'm not going to get engaged when somebody's talking about
So
me.
you want us to get in the fight for you?
I have called point of order over several times at other council members.
So that we would be clear to the public, anytime a speaker come up, any council member has the opportunity if it's not going the way that you know the rules say, you have that right to call point of order. You have, if you read the rules, Councilman,
I'm not
you
gonna.
will have the right to call point of order.
I'm not gonna, you're the chairman, the vice chair controls speaking. That's the way I felt, and I'm not gonna argue. I'm just gonna tell you that's how I felt, and I want it to be on the record that Grayson Butcher is not a racist, and my heart hurts for anyone who was killed in the city of Shreveport. That's all I have to
And
say.
this is what you think, and this is what I'm putting on the record. I'm not a racist. I didn't call you a racist. He was not my relative calling you a racist. You know that you are not a racist. So if you know, and that's all that satisfies you is that you know.
Well,
I didn't have a right, Councilman, to interfere with whatever he was saying, because I didn't know he was gonna say whatever. But you yourself, don't let the public go out here, or those that's watching, think that the only individual could call point of order is the vice chair or the chairman. Any member up here can say point of order.
Thank
You
you.
know the rules, Mr. Councilman. You
Thank-
know the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate that schooling on Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
many times sitting up here, I can count the number of times that we've been called out of our names and have spoken to it and nobody has said anything. Pretty much, I can go over here and speak for myself when I need to. But I'm gonna say this. When you talk about the city hurting, in the African-American community, where there's countless shootings that you see over and over and over again, what you hear is pain. You don't recognize that pain because you can't identify with it. You don't have to worry about if you get pulled over, what's going to happen with you. You don't have to sit at the dinner table and tell your sons or your daughters how to interact. Regardless of what this investigation brings, a life is lost. And what is seen right now with no other communication from the authority that is supposed to be relaying whatever messages is that they see cops killing black people. So we have cops killing black people, we have black people killing black people. That's what's in the head and that's the message. What we're trying to do, or what we look at, is what we ask you all is to have a level of sensitivity and understanding the culture of what it is that you see. You would never be black in America. How many times have I wished that you all would have defended us when people called us out of our names? And you didn't, and you still don't. You know what it's like being called a nigger? A tar baby? Do you know what it's like being called, a black man being called a boy? Do you know what that's like? No, you don't. But guess what? I didn't hear nobody raise their voice up here. And when the chairman did, oh my God, now we get a lawsuit. Go figure. My point is, this is a predominantly African-American city. And as I told the mayor, and he will tell you this, you are going to have issues that you are dealing with in the African-American community that are real. You won't be able to hide from it. You're gonna have to talk about it. And it's gonna take all of us at the table to talk about it. So you talk about your offense, trust me, as an African-American woman who happens to be an elected official, I get called out my name, I can't tell you how many times.
This is true.
And I don't hear a word. But I don't have a problem with this mouth and standing up for myself and people who look like me and people who don't look like me. So when you want that, make sure that when you want to stand, because we stood for you almost going to jail when it was your turn. That's what we did. So again, what you're feeling right here is what we try to contain. When we see it, we don't know what the outcome of the investigation is going to be. What I see is a people that is hurting, that is traumatized by gun violence, and it is gun violence all across the nation. All across the nation. We can respectfully disagree on any topic that we want to. And I agree that nobody should call you out your name, but if you're not a racist, then you tell them you're not a racist. You tell them that. But better yet, they ask you to show them that. And you show them that because you take a stand on issues that will make you uncomfortable. That's not a tough, easy conversation that some are going to have. I don't know what the man with the Black Panther Party would all went through his head. Maybe you need to have a discussion with him and ask him. When he drove 1,300 miles, what was his framework? But when you deal with what we have to deal with as a black person, and sometimes our interactions are not always positive with the outcome, you don't pull over and stick your hands out the window. Or you don't sit over here and hold and literally shake. And I don't plan on breaking any laws. But there is an innate fear that I have because of what I've seen and because of what I've witnessed. So where you want us to acknowledge your offense, you acknowledge ours.
And of course, on yesterday would have been a good time for the statement that was read today and your statement that you had today. Then they would know how you feel. They not here today. When we defended you, or we stood up for you, you put on record the last time we were talking that you vaguely remembered it. Councilman Jackson, did you
Yes,
have your
sir.
hand up?
Councilman Butcher, I understand the comments that were said yesterday was difficult to hear. As an African-American council member, it was difficult for me to hear those comments. They're looking at me as the solution. There's only 2 members on this council can say they know what it's like to be an African-American male, period. Only 2 members. And as a young African-American male, when I take off this suit, when I take off this bow tie, when I get pulled over by the cops, yes, I'm nervous. I don't have a record, but I'm still nervous. Have you ever had to give your child the talk? That talk is when you get pulled over. What do you should do? Because if you don't follow these instructions, you may not live to come home to talk to your daddy about why you got pulled over. That is the talk. I'm raising 3 African-American boys. I had to give each one of them the talk. Not only how to act when they get pulled over driving, but how to act when I get pulled over and they're in the back seat. I'm a councilman here today. But again, when I'm driving around, when I'm leaving the gym, when my tattoos are showing, do the police officer recognize me as a council member? Do I get treated the same? Councilman Talaferro, I listened to your letter in detail, and I agree with you. And don't get me wrong, I support the police 200%.
Correct.
But at the same time, the pattern that we're seeing, white officers are shooting black individuals at a higher rate. That is the pattern. We can't ignore the pattern. This horseshoe, we having these conversations because we want to build unity. We have to figure this out. They're coming to us because they're looking for the answers. Yes, they're frustrated, but we can't get frustrated either. We got to pull together because our community needs us now more than ever. So don't let our feelings spill over onto them. We have to be what's called a thermostat. We need to regulate the temperature. They're going to be a thermometer. They're going to show you what they're feeling, but we have to regulate the temperature in this city, in this community. We have to take back our city, and that means we have to work together. It's not a black or white thing. It's a Shreveport thing.
It's a big Shreveport thing.
And we need to stand up for each other.
I would suggest also that sometime or another, you all have a conversation with Craig Lee. If Craig Lee was a white man, it would be unbelievable where he would be in life. If Craig Lee was a white man with all of his knowledge, he is one of the most smartest individuals that I know. When you talk about history, when you talk about want to know about the history of this city and the history of anything, Craig Lee knows. But if Craig Lee went to the bank to get a line of credit, then he would have to have collateral. Somebody else with Craig Lee's knowledge could go to the bank and somebody would make a phone call. That's the difference in being black. Those are some facts that we don't like to talk about. It's easy to become the victim when it's you. But on the other hand, when somebody else hurt and speak out for themselves, then they shouldn't be saying that. We will go on the radio and talk about our colleagues about what shouldn't have been said. But you don't know my story. You see my glory. You see me up here with this suit on. But you have no idea, Councilman Butcher, how it is. There's a difference in you being a white councilman and me being black.
Amen.
You could walk in the door and it's totally different. I could walk in the door, it's another story. But I know how to operate in the minority.
Correct.
This is my 4th trip. I've been in the minority on this council when people would put stuff in my district, Miss White, and they would say to me, Mr. Mayor, we couldn't help you today, but let's go to lunch tomorrow, and next time it's going in my district, but it was 4-3. But now the strip has flipped. And so we say, I demonstrated as there is a cow. We can't do anything with the cow, so we'll just make the milk dirty. That ain't right. The same thing that hurts you, hurt me. I was willing to go to jail for you. To go to jail.
And I don't remember saying vaguely, though. I don't remember saying that. I said I do remember that. Very vividly is what I actually said.
Vividly.
Vividly is a lot different than vague.
See, Belgium,
I
vivid
mean,
and
I said I remember
vague,
it
they all the
very
same
vividly,
in
and I-
Belgium. You know,
and I thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
When
and,
I said-
and I also said,
Are you
said in
just
those
gonna,
same
you just
comments.
gonna stop the chair?
No, no, you've been. I'm just saying.
You
I
just gonna stop the chair? Go ahead. I'm just playing. Go
no,
ahead.
what I'm saying is, I also said I want the people to come up here and have their say to us. I don't think when one of us is being talked about that we should be the one. That's just my thinking. All that does is incite it. I want to let them have what they want to say said. I don't want to incite anyone. That's why, and I am not talking to the public. I'm talking to y'all in an open forum. And I do not know what it's like to be a black man. I have never claimed. And I can only imagine. I feel what y'all are saying. For 20 some odd years of my life, I was a fireman. And I've told several people in this audience before, I can promise you, when I pulled up at a scene and somebody was laying on the ground bleeding, their blood was just as red as mine. It didn't matter what color they were. And I worked on them to save their life. So I don't understand. I don't, and I never will claim to. I don't think Councilman Talaferro or Councilman Brooks can say they know what it's like to be a black man. And I want to hear what they want to say. I share their frustration that they don't have the answers. But for me to have put myself and said something and started an argument with them was not the way to go yesterday. Okay. I just don't. I don't think that it was. And look, I'm glad that y'all stand up. And I also said at the last meeting, Mr. Chairman, that I had condemned the Tar Baby comment. I had condemned other comments. I have condemned those.
I didn't hear you.
Yes, sir, I did. I said I have condemned. I said that on the record.
Nobody told me nothing.
Well,
Thank you.
That's one of my favorite movies, so anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. But always know this, man. Thank you. If you watch me, I have engaged with people if they cross the line, if they said whatever. There are people up here said that I shouldn't do that. But if you don't defend yourself, who will?
Well, and that's you, and this is me.
Yes,
I don't think that me, as a white councilman, inciting someone who is already angry, and it may, and like what Councilwoman Taylor said, and I agree 100%, it may not be that they're angry at me. They're angry at the situation.
Right. But guess what? They're going to hear about it today.
Well, you know.
Thank you.
I mean, but.
All right, we got to move. There are no executive sessions. We've had a wholesome, and I'd just like to say this for a record. We don't like to have conversations like this, but it will bless you if you engage in.
May I say one thing, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Along the lines of some articles that have been written, there was one written about a group of us a few weeks ago. And if we could, at the next meeting, I'd like the clerk to I'd like to nominate myself to be the lead singer of the Jackson Five.
I'm Marlon.
I second that motion. Councilwoman Taylor has indicated that she'd like to be Tito.
And I would also like, if we could, and if
You're
we've
not
got
part of the Jackson
travel, I'd
Five,
like
Councilman
to
Ball.
also travel up to Flint, Michigan and take some advice from Eric Mays.
Okay, right.
That's
Well, let me
what
ask
we
y'all,
need to
since
do.
y'all gonna be singing, y'all wanna sing at church for Mother's Day Sunday?
No, we do not.
But listen, I tell you what, before the rain comes, if there's nothing else to come before this council, we are adjourned.